Hey everyone, Misilla here, Learn to Grow. I hope that you're having a great week. So today I'm going to go over 12 crops that you can plant for your fall garden. So you want to allow enough time for your crops to mature, especially if you live in a cooler climate. Now, if you're in a warmer climate, zone 9 and up, you can pretty much sow or plant out throughout September, October, maybe even later. And I know some people are still growing tomatoes through the fall and winter months, depending on where you are. Now, before you sow your seeds or plant out your starts, make sure to replenish your soil with some organic matter such as compost or worm castings. And as long as the temperatures remain around 40 degrees and above, the microbes will continue to break down these organic matter and release nutrients into the soil. So let's go ahead and sow a few seeds, and I'll go over the 12 crops that you can plant this fall. All right, so I have my bag of seeds here. Now I have some of these crops already growing in the garden. So the first one is this variety. It's called Ben Haushi. I got a free gift from my order at Baker Creek. So the second one is Bok Choy or Pak Choy, and I'll be planting a dwarf variety, which matures in about 25 days. The regular size matures in about 45 days. And the third one is Tatsoi. I cannot find my seeds right now, but it's somewhere in this pile. And the fourth one is Arugula. So these are the seeds that I harvested from last summer. Number 5 is spinach. More seeds that I harvested last summer. Number 6 is leaf lettuce. So I prefer to plant leaf lettuce this late in the season because they mature quicker than the heading varieties. Leaf lettuces generally mature in about 45 to 55 days. The heading varieties can take up to 100 days or more to mature. Number 7, mash, corn salad, or Lem's lettuce. This is cold hardy all the way down to around 0 degrees Fahrenheit and maybe lower with some protection such as a row cover or cold frame. Number 8, Swiss chard. So I have the Oriole, orange yellow variety, and some rainbow chard. And I'll show you the ones that I have growing that were actually volunteers from last season. I had a few plants that I allowed to go to seed so I can collect the seeds. And these ones popped up here in early spring. So I'll show you those. They're doing really well. Oh, and Swiss chard is hardy to around 22, sometimes 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you want to extend the harvest of your Swiss chard, and if you live in a cold climate, you might want to consider putting a row cover or plant them in a cold frame. Number 9, radish. Radish is an excellent fall crop. They mature in about 21 to 35 days depending on variety. So the other 3 I'll actually walk around the garden and show you. So we have kale as number 10, sorrel number 11, and Claytonia number 12, also known as miner's lettuce. And actually I have a bonus for you. You can still sow cilantro. Cilantro loves the cool weather, so this is a great fall crop for mild and warm climates, especially during the fall and winter months. All right, let's walk around real quick and I'll sow a few seeds. This is red-veined sorrel. This is actually a perennial green, and it's a very cold hardy one, all the way down to around negative 20-25 degrees Fahrenheit. We have plenty of seeds here to harvest. Here are some miner's lettuce or Claytonia seedlings. I sowed the seeds about 3 weeks ago. I love these greens. They are very succulent, tasty, and very similar to spinach. Here are some of the perennial kale that we are growing. This is called Kaleidoscopic Kale Grex. So it's a hybrid, and I'll leave some links below if you'd like to learn more about them. Here is one of our Russian kale volunteers. We actually have them throughout the garden. And I'm sure you remember the 1,000 head kale. Here are more Russian kale. That one's 1,000 head. More over there. These are all volunteers from last season. And Russian kale has been my most favorite just because the leaves are always tender and they retain their flavor even in the summertime. Here's another one. This is a nice big one. Also a volunteer. And also just want to remind you that your leafy greens will start to taste sweeter in the fall and winter months. As the weather cools down, the plants will start to produce more sugars, so that way they can withstand the cold temperatures. Here's a couple of the chard volunteers. I never moved these ones. The one I moved are in another raised bed. Let me show you those. Here are the other Swiss chard volunteers. So I dug these up from that same patch where the wood chips are and transplanted these back in May. They are looking lush and beautiful. And also, Swiss chard is a biennial crop, which means that it'll produce for a whole season before it goes to seed on the following season. Here are some spinach seedlings. I sowed the seeds nearly 3 weeks ago. So I'll be thinning these out and transplanting some in a different container. These are growing in a 25-gallon pot below this tomato plant, which I'll be removing soon. This is oxheart tomato, so beautiful. Here are some cilantro seedlings. These were sown about 3 weeks ago. So when you sow your cilantro seeds, you want to bury it about at least ½ an inch deep, usually about 2 to 3 times the diameter or width of your seed is about the right depth. Going to sow some French breakfast radish. So I usually just use my fingers and dig a shallow furrow, and I just sprinkle the seeds right in the middle. And then I just cover them up. Make sure the soil is loose and loamy. Just pat and water them in. So before I sow some seeds, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some worm castings on top of the soil. About 1/8 of an inch, so I'm just replenishing it. Then we'll lightly scratch that in. So just like that. I've got some red bowl leaf lettuce here, and I'm going to just plant them in mass like this. I usually just sow the seeds just like this. I broadcast them, and then I thin them out and leave a few about 4 to 6 inches apart to mature. Or you can keep them planted densely and harvest them with a cut and come again method, which is also known as intensive planting. So just like that, you can press them in lightly. You don't need to bury lettuce seeds at all. They actually benefit from the light in order for them to germinate. So they need a little bit of light to break dormancy. So I'm not going to water in the seeds because we are going to get some rain tonight and the next 3 days. I'm trying to conserve as much water as I can, especially with the heat waves that we've had this summer. Just give them a gentle shower with a rose attachment on your watering can or on your nozzle. I hope that you all enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and would love to hear from you. Let me know what you're growing in your fall garden this year. And also stay tuned. I'll be putting up season extenders on the next video, and I'll see you then. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and happy gardening.